This is Bryce Burge, host of Your Soccer Passport. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Baxter Colburn, host of Verse of the Day here on Public House Media. Thanks for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with that episode, I hope you'll come and check out my show, where I take one Bible verse every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I provide practical examples of what it can be in your life. We have guest speakers that join the program every Wednesday, and there's always something new to learn about your walk with Christ. You can stay up to date with Verse of the Day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or on publichousemedia.org. Thanks again for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
What is going on, Rewritten Crew? It's Julianne Condia, your host. Thanks for checking this episode out. I'm really excited and honored and just thrilled that you are a part of this Rewritten community, and just thanks for your support. And when you tell me how each episode you've listened to has spoke to you is everything. And so I really appreciate that. I hope that you all are having a wonderful week. My mentor the other day said, what do you have to say goodbye to and let go of in 2018? Because we cannot move forward with baggage. We cannot move forward with this extra weight. If you do, it's going to be a lot harder. And I think a lot of times people are experiencing so much pain and hurt that they don't realize that they have the option to say goodbye to that and let that go. To move forward today, you must learn to say goodbye to yesterday's hurts, tragedies, and baggage. I actually read that in a book that I've read a couple of times called Failing Forward. You cannot build a monument to past problems and fail forward. And if there's anything I've learned about moving in your life and taking steps in your life, it will require us to fail. And people typically like to stay stagnant because they're so filled up with fear. And they don't want to start that workout program. They don't want to move across the country. They don't want to take the leap, because what happens if it doesn't work out? Or they don't want to forgive someone because that person really hurt them, and what if they hurt me again, right? We are all human experiencing humanity. And in order to continue to grow in life, we are going to have setbacks, and we are going to have trials and tribulations. And when we can start to see that as our monumental way of growing, that we don't have to fear it, because I was just even thinking about this. Before I met Eric, I was really struggling with finding a good guy. And my heart had been so emotional and insecure, up and down, questioning myself, questioning other dudes, and I just was all over the place. And I look at what I have with Eric, and I look back and be like, man, that was all worth it. That my heart could take another hit. My heart could experience another setback in order to get to this point. And I just want to remind you of that today, of you've survived a lot. You've survived heartbreak, you've survived setback, you've survived rejection, you've survived failure, you've survived people being cruel, you've survived people questioning you, you've survived not knowing what to do. Maybe you've survived and worked through a relationship when you didn't handle a situation the best. You have survived a lot. And with that, you've had joy. You've had wonderful experiences. You've been able to grow. You've been able to meet people, establish relationships, figure out who you want to be. And I think that that is so amazing. We cannot move on, though, if we are carrying all this pain of regret with us. We cannot move on if we are continuing to play in our past and feel sorry for ourselves. We cannot keep going if we're using our personal history to keep us as a hostage. We just cannot do it because it creates bitterness. People who don't get beyond the problems or the pain of the past eventually become bitter. And I think blessing and bitterness cannot be experienced at the same time. And which one gives you a fresh breath of air? I think blessings, when you smile when you think of blessings and how grateful you are for life. And it legitimately just makes your heart so excited. And when you're bitter, I just don't think you can experience that at the same time. So as, we're working through our past and carrying our baggage, I've read that if we keep holding on to our past, we can either experience a breakdown or breakthrough, right? It can cause a lot of comparison. We can really hold ourselves back when we're looking left to right and thinking people have it easier than us, that they don't know what it's like. They've never been through that and been through what I've been through. They just don't know. And that's going to keep us in our past. Maybe it's even from failing forward, rationalization, that believing that there are good reasons to not get over your past difficulties. Rationalization creates a fog that hinders people from finding solutions to their problems. Or maybe isolation, where you completely draw back, you cut out everybody, you put up all these barriers and boundaries. And then maybe it goes to regret, that you are constantly living your present life regretting that you did whatever that you've done. Man, that's a lot, right? Past hurts can really make you bitter or better. And ultimately, the choice is up to us. We can forgive people. We can, including ourselves, we can forgive ourselves. And that will help us move on, forgiving what happened. And so when I was working through this in my own life and even experiencing this book, Failing Forward, it was so good because, and then it was just timely, especially when my mentor asked, what do you need to let go of in 2018? Because you cannot move on in 2019 if you don't let it go. Whew. What do I need to let go? And I really had to reflect and dig deep to figure out what that was. And let me tell you, that can bring a lot of freedom to your new year. So, as you do this, I really encourage you to take some time right now to list the negative events from your past or maybe 2018 that maybe are holding you hostage. Maybe you're believing a story that's no longer yours to tell. If you know anything about me, I come from a broken household. I think that's what society would call it as. It was just my norm. It was just my day-to-day. It definitely was filled with love. And I came from a divorced family and a single mom who worked very hard. We had very little, and that was challenging. I was not very good academically in school. I could read people well. I could feel people's emotions well. I had really great street smarts, and I just had this ability to go deep with people, and it just wasn't with the textbooks. I couldn't learn the same way they were teaching all the kids, and that made me feel really dumb. And I carried that into major parts of my life. And I've had to really work through that. And I've had people in my life treat me wrong and not right, and I had carried that into different parts of my life, thinking that maybe love is conditional. And it's quite crazy when you start to really lay that down. In 2018, I had some relationships break, and for the good, I think. I think that all relationships should go through miscommunication. I think that all great relationships experience setback. I think that all relationships worth having go through difficulties. I really do. I really think that. And in 2018, that happened to me with some friends, and it was really difficult, really hard. And, dealing with guilt, shame, blame, and, being accused of intentions, but the whole time my intentions were good. And it's like you want to overcompensate and prove that your intentions were good, which is not good. And it just was a lot. And so when I look back in 2018, that's a big thing I need to let go of is, okay, that happened. I'm acknowledging that. And so I really like this list. This has really helped me work through what I need to let go of, what do I need to say goodbye to in my past is for everything that you list, this is the process you go through. And we're made in this process, by the way. Number one is acknowledging the pain. Acknowledge that it was painful. I think with moving on, it's not about, that shouldn't be painful. No, that's quite the opposite. Acknowledge the pain. That hurt me. I was hurt last year. I was hurt that I was being blamed for things. I was really hurt by that because my intentions weren't to cause that. And acknowledge that. Acknowledge the pain. When I went through my miscarriage, I had to acknowledge how much pain I was in. I had to acknowledge that I was confused and broken, and I definitely went through some isolation. I had to acknowledge that. And then number two is grieve the loss. Grieve the loss. And I think people miss this step. I think people are really good at acknowledging the pain in different ways. They acknowledge the pain maybe by overeating and not verbally. They acknowledge the pain by being short with people and angry with people. They acknowledge the pain by constantly talking poorly about people. When you really listen in and really tune in, I think that those are ways that people are acknowledging pain without actually saying it. I think this step of grieving the loss is one people don't want to do because it creates more pain. That they want to suppress, they want to run away from, they want to hide from, and ignore. Grieving the loss is the way to healing. And that was really a foundational part to my moving on through a lot of hardships in my life. Number three is forgive the person. Forgive the person. And again, this doesn't mean that you're saying what they did was okay. But there is so much freedom in forgiveness. And I feel like forgiveness isn't always for that other person. I feel like that forgiveness is for you to really become free of not being a victim anymore, of not feeling a hostage anymore, that you're letting go and you're breaking the chains. It doesn't matter whether or not that person forgives you back or automatically changes their lifestyle, because they may not. But that's not the point. The point is that you get to be free from this. Number four is forgive yourself. Whatever you've done, I always think about that people talk a lot about their pain and abuse and people treating them wrong or whatever. And I always think about the person on the other side that's causing that. Have you ever done that? Where you hear a lot about the Me Too movement, and it's like, I'm so proud of people speaking their stories, but what about the other end of the people that are committing these actions? They have to be filled with so much guilt and shame, and maybe they're not that person anymore, which can hurt us, right? If people have been hurt by other people, but maybe they're really having a hard time forgiving themselves knowing that they hurt someone else. I always think about that. And I've hurt people. You've hurt people. We've all hurt people. We must forgive ourselves. And then number 5 is determine to release the event and move on. This is not your story anymore. It's not one you have to play into anymore. You are renewed. You have a life that is meant to be filled with blessings and laughter and joy. Yes, you'll experience more pain. It's inevitable, but you can move on from what has ever happened to you. It's part of who you were, but it's not your story to live into anymore. If you are having a hard time because you're holding grudges, oh yeah, right? I encourage you to talk to God about that issue and ask Him to help you through that process. No matter what, no matter how difficult this becomes, persevere through it. You will not be able to be your best today until you say goodbye and you let go of yesterday and your past. Friend, thank you for listening. I appreciate you so much, and so much of the things that I talk to you about are my own personal experiences, but also I love personal development. It has helped me become aware of things like this. Reading from Failing Forward, this is like, that's what helped me. And so I'm really thankful to share that with you today. Please screenshot this episode. Let me know how it spoke to you. I'm here for you. And I just think that this is your year. This is your day. This is your moment to live in blessing. Talk to you soon.